Today's lesson is Bicycles Through the Ages. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're going to continue talking about the evolution of the bicycle, the history of the bicycle, where it was invented, and how it changed over time. Now, we began by saying that some people think that Leonardo da Vinci came up with the earliest design, but nowadays scholars think that that drawing is a fake, and the first bicycle actually came out in 19th century Germany.
Right, so it first came out in the beginning of the 1800s, and then around the mid-1800s, a newer version of the bicycle came out that had wooden and metal wheels that didn't really provide a comfortable ride. However, it did work, and people were impressed by this new invention.
Indeed, but again, yes, it was called the Bone Shaker. It did not have any actual tires, and of course, you could not pedal it using a chain and gears in the back, which we'll get to later on. So let's continue talking about the history of the bicycle and the evolution of the bicycle. Let's listen to the first part of today's lesson, and we'll come back to discuss it.
The next step in the bicycle's evolution came in the 1870s with the introduction of the penny farthing. This name was inspired by the size difference between the wheels, which was compared to that of the bike's two namesake British coins. The huge front wheel meant the rider could travel a longer distance with each turn of the pedals, but it also made the machine difficult and dangerous to use.
大家好，第一部分我们看到名词 evolution 指演进、发展、演化或者是进化。例如 The evolution of the home computer over the past 2 decades has been quite incredible. 家用电脑在过去20年间的发展颇为惊人。或是 Many of the details of human evolution are still imperfectly understood. 人类演化的过程尚有诸多细节未能通盘厘清。
The next step in the bicycle's evolution came in the 1870s with the introduction of the penny farthing. So we're talking about the bicycle's evolution. Evolution refers to the way in which something gradually changes or develops. So you can talk about the evolution of the smartphone from the time it first came out, I guess the late 1990s, to the way smartphones are used today and all of the features that smartphones offer. So when you talk about the development of smartphones, you're talking about its evolution. And here, of course, we're talking about the evolution of the bicycle. And now we have come to the 1870s when another development occurred. And during this time, a newer version of the bicycle came to be called the penny farthing.
Now, remember the last time we talked about the evolution of the bicycle, they had attached the pedals directly to the front wheel. So in the 1870s, we had what is called the penny farthing, and this name was inspired by the size difference between the wheels, which was compared to that of the bike's two namesake British coins. So again, the penny farthing is that really tall bicycle that has a really big front wheel and one really small rear wheel, and the rider is really high up in the air. Some people actually recreate those bicycles and ride them sometimes just for fun. But this invention came out in the 1870s, and they called it the penny farthing, and it was inspired by the size difference in coins that were used in Britain at the time. So back then you had a coin called the penny, which equals 1/100th of a pound. But back then it had a kind of different value. But for all intents and purposes, the farthing was about 1/4 the size of a penny. Hence, it kind of looked like the penny farthing bicycle.
That's right. This name was inspired by the size difference between the wheels, which was compared to that of the bike's two namesake British coins. So this name was inspired by the size difference between the wheels. So when something is inspired by something else, then that first thing gives the idea or the inspiration for that other thing. You can also say that artist A's work were inspired by artist B's work. You can also say that artist B inspired artist A.
Right, you could say modern graffiti artists are inspired by the work of Dondi White in the 1970s. But in this particular case, the name was inspired by the size difference between the wheels. So yeah, if you held a farthing in your hand and you had a penny in your hand, you would think, wow, that size difference looks like the size difference between the wheels of that bicycle. So let's call it the penny farthing, and hence we have the name. And of course, again, as I said, we had a very large front wheel, but the pedals were attached directly to the wheel. And the reason the wheel was so big was because that way you could actually go faster and you could go farther with such an arrangement. Now, the huge front wheel meant the rider could travel a longer distance with each turn of the pedals. One revolution of the pedals would give you a certain amount of distance, whereas if you used the older bicycle, one revolution of the pedals would give you a fairly short distance.
That's right. But it also made the machine difficult and dangerous to use because the faster the machine goes, the more difficult it becomes to control it. And it's still unclear whether there were any brakes installed in this version of the bicycle. If somebody wanted to stop the bicycle suddenly to avoid an accident, would they be able to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think maybe you slowed it down in a similar fashion to how you slow down fixed gear bicycles these days. If they don't have brakes on them, you kind of pedal backwards a little bit to provide opposite force to slow it down, or maybe even skid the wheel on the ground to stop it, but that's a different kind of subject. Again, if you see pictures of the penny farthing, you can see that they look kind of dangerous to ride. You're high up in the air. If you hit a rock or something, you were going to fall down and maybe break a bone or something like that. Well, now everybody, let's move on to the second part of our lesson. We'll listen first.
Invented by John Kemp Starley in 1885, the safety bicycle quickly replaced the penny farthing. With the back wheel connected to the pedals by a chain, the model was more efficient and could therefore have two smaller wheels of equal size. The greater stability of this arrangement helped usher in the golden age of cycling.
第二部分，我们看到单字 stability 这个字是名词，代表稳定或是稳固。例如 After the war, there was a long period of international stability. 国际局势于战后处于长期稳定状态。另外补充这个字的形容词 stable, S-T-A-B-L-E, stable 指稳定的或者是牢固的。像是 Hank's health was having ups and downs for a while, but it is stable now. Hank 的健康状况有一阵子起伏不定，但是现在稳定了。或是 This shelf isn't very stable. It looks like it's about to come off the wall. 这个架子不是很牢固，它看起来好像快从墙上掉下来了。接着我们看到动词 usher 指引导或是引领，像是 The bodyguard ushered the actor into the limo. 保镖引领这位演员坐上豪华轿车。
Now, let's move on now and talk about a big milestone in the invention of the bicycle, or the evolution of the bicycle. Invented by John Kemp Starley in 1885, the safety bicycle quickly replaced the penny farthing. So now we have something called the safety bicycle.
Right. So with the back wheel connected to the pedals by a chain, the model was more efficient and could therefore have two smaller wheels of equal size. So the big difference between this bicycle that was invented by John Kemp Starley and previous bicycles was that there was a chain that connected the back wheel to the pedals. So this chain made controlling the bicycle much easier by the rider.
Indeed. So the safety bicycle introduces the chain, and we have a chain that goes around the chain ring on the front, which is connected directly to the pedals, and then the chain goes back and moves a gear on the rear wheel. So it applies some physics there. And again, that was a big step forward in the evolution of the bicycle. It was called the safety bicycle. And the model was more efficient and could therefore have two smaller wheels of equal size. So you didn't have to have one big wheel and one small wheel. You could have two smaller wheels and they were the same size. Hence, if you hit a rock, you wouldn't fall so far down to the ground. You might still get hurt, but not as badly as you would if you fell off a penny farthing. And the greater stability of this arrangement helped usher in the golden age of cycling. Now, here we've got the word stability. That refers to how stable something is, how able it is to resist falling forward or backwards or left or right.
Right, so stability refers to something that can remain balanced and not fall or shake if it is disturbed. So this new version of the bicycle offered greater stability, so it was firmer, it didn't fall over as easily, and this greater stability helped usher in the golden age of cycling. When you usher in something, you are introducing that thing into another space or another time. The word usher also refers to, well, if we look at the verb, it refers to the process of leading a person into a particular place, like a room or to their seats. So if you go to the theater, then you might need an usher to find where you're sitting because there are so many seats and your seat might be blocked by people who are already sitting down and the show has begun. So the usher usually carries a little flashlight so you can see where you're going.
Right, that's the usher as a noun. You have ushers in theaters, of course, but here we're using usher as a verb. To usher in something or to usher something in means to introduce that thing and introduce it in a relatively quick way. So yes, indeed, the invention of the safety bicycle ushered in the golden age of cycling. Bicycles could become very easy for people to use, and they probably sold at pretty cheap prices, so lots of people got them, and then we had a heyday of cycling at that time. Okay, let's move on now to the third and final part of our lesson. We will listen to it first.
Since 1885, further innovations have largely been based on the safety bike's basic design. With each improvement, bicycles have gotten faster, lighter, and easier to use. It's no wonder, then, that a growing number of people are embracing them as both a mode of transportation and a form of fun. The versatile bike is the vehicle of our past, present, and future.
第三部分，我们看到单字 mode 这个字是名词，表示方法、方式或是模式，像是 Whatever you do, don't bother Ashley while she's in work mode. 不管你要做什么，都不要在 Ashley 处于工作模式时打扰到她。另外，把这个字字尾加上 l 就变成了名词 model， 它有模型或者是模特儿的意思。例如The student built a model of the earth. 那名学生做了一个地球的模型。或是 Nicole is a model for a clothing company. Nicole 是一间服饰公司的模特儿。最后，我们看到形容词 versatile， 它也可以读 versatile。这个字有多种用途的，多功能的，多才多艺的意思。例如The mechanic had a versatile tool that could be used in a number of ways. 那位技师有一种多功能工具，可以有好几种用途。或者 Sonia was a versatile actress, able to take on any role with ease. Sonia 是个多才多艺的演员，她能毫不费力地饰演任何角色。
Since 1885, further innovations have largely been based on the safety bike's basic design. So, since 1885, a lot of new developments have been made. However, these developments were based on the safety bike's basic design. So, the safety bike's basic design has not changed, but new inventions and new developments were built on top of this basic design. And we call these new developments innovations. So an innovation is a new idea or a new method of doing something. You can also call a new piece of equipment an innovation.
Right, so if you look at the safety bicycle when it came out in 1885, it looks very similar to modern bicycles. So you've got basically lots of innovations on the safety bicycle that have occurred over time. They could be designs for wheels with rubber tires and with different materials for the frame and different materials for the chain and brakes and things like that and cables, all those things were innovations that were added to the safety bicycle over time. And with each improvement, bicycles have gotten faster, lighter, and easier to use. And they are well established, and bicycles are all over the world, and they're used by almost everybody.
That's right. So it's no wonder then that a growing number of people are embracing them as both a mode of transportation and a form of fun. So here we're saying that people are embracing bicycles. Well, usually when you use the word embrace, you mean hug. When you embrace somebody, you hug that person. But embrace can also be used in a figurative sense to mean to accept something completely. You can embrace a new idea. When you embrace a new idea, it means that you accept it completely. You think it's a good idea.
Exactly. So, of course, bicycles have always been with us, and we've had various fads over the years with bicycles. For example, in the 1970s, there was the 10-speed fad when everybody had to have a 10-speed bicycle that was designed like European racing bicycles. Before that, at least in the United States, everybody was riding cruisers with coaster brakes. And then you had the 10-speed bicycles. And then in the 1980s, we had the mountain bicycle. And then everybody had to have a mountain bicycle. And since that time, of course, we've had other innovations and various fads as well. But the basic truth is that people embrace bicycles as a mode of transportation or as a form of fun. So again, if it's a mode of transportation, it's a way to get around. So you've got people riding bicycles to school. You've got people riding bicycles to the market to do their shopping. It's just very practical. You don't have to put gasoline in it. You can power it yourself. And so that's a practical form of transportation. But of course, other people like to ride them for fun, like people who buy expensive carbon fiber road bikes and they enter big races and things like that. Or there are people who ride BMX bicycles. The list goes on.
Right. And here the word mode simply means a particular way of doing something. So you can talk about a company or a factory's mode of production, which means the way they produce their goods. And transportation, on the other hand, simply means the activity of traveling, of going from one place to another. So transportation can refer to people going from one place to another or transporting goods, bringing goods, products from one place to another.
Exactly. And sometimes transportation is shortened to transport. You might hear that from time to time. So again, it's either a practical mode of transportation or a form of fun. The versatile bike is the vehicle of our past, present, and future. Now here we've got the word versatile. That's the American pronunciation. You'll hear versatile in other parts of the world. That just means it's flexible. It can be used in many different ways. And I mentioned some examples a couple of seconds ago. It can be a racing bicycle. It can be a technical bicycle for riding observed trials, for example, or BMX bicycling, mountain bicycling, downhill. There are all sorts of genres of bicycle riding. So it's versatile, it's flexible, and it's here to stay. It came from the past, it's in the present, and it will be in the future.
Right, and just a word about the word versatile. You can also use it for a person to describe a person. You can say that the actor is very versatile, which means that this actor can play many different types of roles. This actor can play romantic roles, adventurous roles, mysterious roles. So that person, if they are able to do all of those things, then they are a versatile actor.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's turn things over to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一句有提到自行车的演进，它用名词 evolution 来表达演进发展的意思。那它的动词 evolve E-V-O-L-V-E， 我们来学习它的字首字根。好，看到 V-O-L-V-E 这个字根，它表示 roll， 就是有转动滚动的语义。那么在 evolve 这个字当中，它的字首 E 是来自 EX， 表示向外。那么字根 volve 就是有转动或是改变的意思，我们就可以用向外转动慢慢扩展的意象去联想 evolve， 它有逐步演变、演进、发展的意思。好，那顺便补充几个带有 volve 这个字根的单字。第一个是 involve， 它的字首 in 表示 into 进入，Volve 表示 roll 转动滚动嘛，那滚动进来应该很容易联想到 involve 它有卷入的意思，它可以表达使卷入、牵连或是包含的语义。好，那么第二个补充的是 revolve， 它的字首 re 有返回再度的意思， volve 表示转动，那合在一起 revolve 它就有旋转转动的意思，我们就可以用 revolve around something 去表达围绕着什么什么旋转。第三个补充的是 devolve， 它的字首 de 表示 down 向下， volve 表示转动滚动。那这个字呢是 evolve 的相反词，它就有退化的语义，也可以表达将什么来下放啊、转移、移交，像是把权力、职责等等下放。好，那么课文最后提到说，随着每一次改良，自行车已变得更快、更轻、更容易使用，因此也难怪越来越多人乐于把它们当作一种交通工具和一种乐趣。文中它是用 It's no wonder 加上 that 子句去表达难怪……那我们来学习这个用法。好，It's no wonder 或是 little wonder 或是 small wonder 去接 that 子句，就表示难怪怎么样，什么什么并不足为奇。那其中的 it 它是虚主词，用来代替后面的 that 子句，所以它就是在讲这个 that 子句是 no wonder 或是 little wonder 或是 small wonder。 好，那我们在口语当中，其实你也可以直接用 no wonder, little wonder, small wonder 加上 that 子句，然后 that 还可以省略哦。举例来说 Rabbits are cute, fluffy, and cuddly. It's no wonder that people love keeping them as pets. 好，那后面这一句你也可以直接就说 No wonder people love keeping them as pets. 兔子可爱，毛茸茸又惹人怜爱，难怪人们喜欢养它们来当宠物。好，那再顺便补充几个句型，可以用来表达……不令人意外、不足为奇的意思。像第一个，你可以用 It's no surprise 或者是 It's little surprise 再加 that 子句。再来你可以用 It's not surprising 或是 It's hardly surprising 加上 that 子句。然后你还可以用 It comes as no surprise 或是 little surprise 再接 that 子句。只是这边补充一下，当我们说 come as a surprise 是指令人惊讶、叫人跌破眼镜的那种意思，那 it comes as no surprise 或是 it comes as little surprise 再接 that 子句，这则是表达说 that 子句所描述的是不令人意外，在意料之中。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Evolution. The evolution of farming systems has made food production far more efficient. Inspire. This dish was inspired by the chef's love of Latin America. Stability. Place your feet farther apart for greater stability when you hit the ball. Embrace. Some companies have embraced the idea of working from home. Mode. The virus has more than one mode of transmission. Transportation. When Irene's scooter broke down, she was left without transportation.
Discussion starter starts now.
Here's our discussion starter for today. The question is, if you could go for a test ride on any of the bikes from the past, which would you choose and why?
Well, I think it would be fun to ride the penny farthing since it sounds like it would be something you'd find in an amusement park because it sounds a little bit dangerous and you might get a rush or a thrill from riding it because you're all high up in the air and you can go pretty fast without being able to stop.
Well, I'm not brave like you, Helen. I've been injured in bicycle accidents before, and it takes so long to recover, so I would stay away from that penny farthing. I think it would be really cool to ride the safety bicycle, since it is kind of the basis of all modern bicycles. It would be kind of neat to see how different they were back then from the bicycles we ride now. Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.